Today we're making this super easy hexacardi. To make the super easy hexacardi, you're going to need your yarn and a crochet hook that goes along with it. I'm using a 7mm hook and this chamois chenille from Secret Yarnery. Thank you very much. And it's also handy to have a stitch marker, especially if you're a beginner. To get started, we're going to make a magic ring. To make a magic ring, you put your tail of your yarn over the palm of your non-dominant hand and hold it down with your thumb on your ring finger, just so it's not moving around a lot. Wrap your yarn around 2 fingers and make an X. Wrap your yarn around 3 fingers and just hold it there with that other one. So you're holding everything down with your thumb. Flip your hand over and take your hook, put your hook side down, so my hook part is facing down, and slide it underneath the short loop. Grab the long loop and bring it under. Point the hook towards yourself. Point the hook away from yourself while you loosen your thumb, because you want this to start moving now. You want it to be a bit loose. Grab the long strand, turn your hook, and pull that strand through the loop on your hook. Oops. And there's your magic ring. So let it go, untangle your tail. I'll leave a link to another video in the description below of how to make a magic ring, because it takes a bit of practice, but it's worth it. It's a good thing to know. So now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and that counts as our first double crochet. So wrap your yarn. Now we're going to be making our double crochets into the ring and over the tail. So wrap your yarn, go into the ring, grab your yarn and bring it back, pushing your loops onto the fat part of your hook. Grab your yarn and take off 2. Grab your yarn and take off 2. So that's a double crochet. And our chain 3 counts as a double crochet, so that is 2 double crochets. And 1 more into the ring. 1 more double crochet. So that's a total of 3 double crochets. That is going to be our average shell. So now chain 2, 1, and 2. Wrap your yarn, go into the ring, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off 2, wrap your yarn and take off 2. So now we're going to be making sets. Let's get my yarn sorted out here. We're going to be making sets of 3 double crochets separated by a chain 2. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So we have 2 sets of 3 double crochets with a chain 2. So we have to make 6 of those altogether. So chain 2, 3 more double crochets into the ring and over the tail. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1 and 2, and keep going, making sets of 3 double crochets into the ring and over the tail until we have a total of 6 sets, or 6 shells. Now if your tail starts getting small like this, give it a pull. You don't want to lose it. Just make sure you have access to your tail. So I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 sets. I need 1 more set. So I will chain 2, 1, 2, and 3 more double crochets into the ring and over the tail. This is my 6th one. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it has 6 sides. Now to join, I'm going to chain 1 and into this top of this chain 3, 1, 2, 3, into there. I'm going to poke in my hook, grab my yarn and bring it back. Now I'm holding open the space, so I have 3 double crochets on each side. because sometimes you can think that's the corner in here, but it's not. So always check for that. And then do a single crochet. So wrap your yarn and take off 2. And I'm holding that space open so I know where my corner is. And chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. Wrap your yarn and make 2 double crochets into that corner space you were holding open. So 1 and 2. So that counts as our first shell on the second round. So now I'll take our stitch marker and pop it into that chain so we know that that's where we're going to join when we're coming back around. We don't want to think that it's straight and we scoot off that edge and then we can get confused. So the stitch marker just helps us. If you're an experienced crocheter, obviously you don't need to use a stitch marker. So wrap your yarn and now we're into this next space. So no chaining. Go straight into this next space. Make 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Now chain 2. 1, 2, that's for our corner. Push your stitches back if you need to and make 3 more double crochets into that same space. 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to be doing that into each corner. So 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So wrap our yarn straight into the next corner. We're going to be doing 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So this is our 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets into the same space. So every space of the previous round is turning into a corner for round 2. Right. So wrap your yarn straight into the next space. Same thing, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So keep doing this all the way around. Into each space you're making 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets. And I'll meet you when we get close to your stitch marker. So I've come around, I've finished making a corner here, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Now this is my next space here. So I'm going to make the last half of my corner in this space. So just 3 double crochet into that space. 1, 2, and 3. Now I can take out my stitch marker. Chain 1. And into the top of that chain 3, push your hook in, grab your yarn and bring it back, hold your opening so you have 3 double crochets on each side. Push them onto your hook so they're the right size, wrap your yarn and take off both loops. So that's a single crochet. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn your work, so flip it over. Wrap your yarn and make 2 double crochets into this corner. So that counts as your corner. And I'll put my stitch marker back in my chain 3. You could also put it down here in the space where you're going to be making your last shell, whatever you want to do. So no chaining. Now we're going to go straight into the next space, which is right here, and make 3 double crochets. And this one is on the side, so we're not making it a corner. This one is an edge or a side. So we're just doing 3 double crochets into that space. And this one here is a corner. You know it's a corner because you have the 2 shells into the same hole, the same starting spot. So straight into that one, we're going to do another corner. So 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, a chain 2, 1 and 2, and 3 more double crochets into that same corner space to make a new corner. So the next space we have is here, and that's on the side. It's flat, so that is just going to be a shell. You can see the difference between, if you hold your work down, you can see the difference between the side ones and a corner one. But just keep an eye on it. Always move your work around so you can see what is going on. So wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets into this side space. No chaining. The only chaining we're doing is in the corners. So now wrap your yarn and straight into this corner to make another corner. So 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Now the next space is a side. It's not a corner, so we're just going to put 1 shell into each side space. So if it's a side, it just gets 1 shell. If it's a corner, it gets 2 shells. So 3 double crochet, a chain 2, and 3 double crochet. So keep going like that all the way around, making a corner, and then here is just going to be 1 shell and then a corner and 1 shell, alternating like that all the way around. And I'll meet you when we get back to our stitch marker. So back at the stitch marker, we're going to join where the stitch marker is. So we are going to make our last half of that corner into that space. So 3 double crochets into the space where that shell is originating from. So wrap your yarn into the space, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, take out your stitch marker, and into the top of that chain 3. You can't really see the chains of this yarn, which is kind of a problem, but you could just go into the top of that chain. So I'm just going to push my hook in, hopefully into the chain, not the space. There we go. Grab your yarn and bring it back. Hold that opening open, wrap your yarn and take off 2. So that's a single crochet. And keep your opening with 3 double crochets on each side. You don't want to put 2 double crochets and 4 double crochets. So make sure you're balanced out, 3 and 3 for that corner. So I hold it open with my thumb and my finger and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. Now we're going to start another shell in this corner here. So wrap your yarn and 2 double crochets. Wrap your yarn, and now you can see these, they have 2 shells, 2 side spots on the side for shells. So both of those are just going to be getting 1. The only place it gets a corner is the corner. So these are just 1 shell in each. Now the next one's a corner. So our corner, we'll put another corner. So 3 double crochets. Chain 2 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. So this side has 2. This whole round, every side has 2 spots. So every round that you go out, you're going to get 1 more spot on each side to put a shell. That's basically how granny squares grow. but I did not put my stitch marker over here. So let me just go back and do that now. And I guess this time let's try putting it into that space where we're going to start our last shell. So there's my one shell and there's a space. So wherever you want to put it, whatever is handy for you, just go for it. Or of course, if you know where your granny square edge is, where your end of your round, you don't need a stitch marker at all. So 3 double crochet in each spot on the sides and corners in each corner. The side ones are just 3 double crochets, no chaining. And the corner ones are 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So keep going like this all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get back to our stitch marker. I'm back at our stitch marker. So let me pop that out. And we're going to be making our last shell into the corner. So wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets into that corner space. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to join the same way. So chain 1 and single crochet into the top of that chain 3 to join. Wrap your yarn and take off 2. So we're right in the middle of our hole. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Turn your work, keeping that space open and making sure you have your 3 and 3. You're balanced out. 2 double crochets into that corner space. 1, 2. Let's put our stitch marker back. And now going along this side, you have 3 spots to make shells. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and then your and then your corner into the corner. So keep going like this until, let me pull that up so I can show you. You'll fold your hexagon in half and turn it until it lines up. So when it's bigger, it'll behave better than mine. It'll be like this. You'll have like a T shape. So what you're going to end up having is 2 T-shapes. So this is going to be your arm, and this is half of your body, and then you'll have half your body and your other arm. So this would be your neck in there. So you're going to keep going around and around and around and around and around until this portion here is the same measurement approximately as half of your body, like half of your torso. So from your belly button to the side of your ribs. So here would be your belly button and there would be the side of your ribs, and you want this to be the same distance. I have finished my 2 hexagons, my 2 pieces. I ended up doing 17 rows. So get your 2 hexagons laid out. Unfortunately, I can't zoom out more than this, but these are my arms over here, and this is the body of my sweater. So this is going to be my back of the sweater here. So there's lots of different ways that you can stitch the back together. I've seen people sew it. It looks nice, although you can see that it's not the exact same. I've seen people do single crochet, but then there's a line at the inside of your sweater, and it also looks, this row is wider than the other, like 2 rows. It makes it a bit spaced out, it looks to me. So there's another way. Of course, you can do it any which way you want, and there's no right way or wrong way of like right side or bad side of our hexagons, because we alternated rows. So I'm just going to lay it out like this. So this is the back of my sweater, and this is the front, right? And this is where we're going to stitch together, this line at the back there. So lay it out like this, and then flip one side onto the other. So your 2 seams are here. And I still have my yarn attached, so that will be helpful. Although if you have cut it, you just take more yarn. And we're going to be crocheting, Jiminy, it's big. Okay. We're going to be crocheting these together. So I'm going to put my loop back on my hook, and I'm going to zoom in. My back one, there's my loop from the join, and I'll poke it into the corner of that top chain, the corner of the top one, and I will just bring it through, and I'll single crochet and chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then into this next space up here I'm going to single crochet. So this is a bit of a looser join, 1, 2, and 3. It's up to you how you want to join, but I'll show you after, and I'll show you why I chose this one, 1, 2, and 3, just because it makes the pattern match. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and single crochet into both coordinating spaces, and then chain 3 to get to the next space. So that's all you're doing all the way along into the space of both pieces, front, right and left, both hexagons, single crochet, and that gives it enough space to lay flat, and then chain 3 to get to the next space, and single crochet, and chain 3 to get to your next space. So this we're going to do all the way up our back seam. We're not leaving anything undone. So keep going, making a single crochet into the space of both pieces and chaining 3 to get to the next space. And I'll meet you at the end. So here we are, I'm chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and this is my last space up here. So I'm going to go, instead of just going into the space, I'm going to go into that chain and into the next chain and make a single crochet. And chain 1 to secure my yarn and cut a tail long enough to sew in. Pull my hook up and my yarn out and pull down to secure. Now I'll show you, we'll flip it open. So this is now the inside. That's going to be the inside of our cardigan. So it has a bit of a raised edge to it, but it really does flatten out. And this is what it looks like from the other side. And we have to see where the join is. Here it is. So here's the join. So you can see the join is here because our pieces line up, but it's not, I don't know, I think it's more difficult to see than with the other methods of joining. So that's why we're doing it that way. If you pull it apart, I mean, there is a bit of a hole there, but there's the chain behind to keep it full out or plumped out. So I think it looks nice, but you can join whoever you want, totally up to you, your choice. So there is our sweater. Our back is together. Our sleeves still need to be joined. So what we're going to do now, we have our seam here on the inside, so the side that we're choosing to be the outside is facing out, and where your body is going to be is inside. So it's looking just like the sweater you'd be wearing. So now we have to inside it out. So our seam will be hidden. So just flip it around so that this seam we made is now touching your work surface. And now fold it all back together so it's pretty and looks like a sweater. So now we have the seam is on the outside here. It's a bit hard to see, but the seam's on the outside, and inside now is the pretty side. So pretty side in, not that there is, but the seam is what we are choosing to be the not pretty side. So now we're going to take your sleeve, and we're just going to attach our yarn on the corner and do the same thing all the way back. We're going to leave 3 empty shells here. So don't go all the way to the end because you need a spot for your neck. So get your yarn and your hook. So to attach our yarn, we're going to put our hook into this chain in the corner of the chain. Like if the chain had a corner, we're just going to poke our hook in there. Doesn't totally matter where. You just don't want it on one side. Of course, now it's being difficult for me. I'm going to go there. And into the same spot of the opposite chain. So poke it in. Grab your yarn, put a loop on your hook, bring it back through both of those loops, and chain 1 to secure. Drop your tail, put your hook into that corner space of both squares, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off both loops. So that's your single crochet into the corner. Now chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and into the space, the next space of both pieces, make a single crochet. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Next spot, single crochet. Chain 3. Next spot, single crochet. So do this all the way up to your sleeve, leaving 3 shells unattached, and I'll meet you there. So here we are. I've made my single crochet into this last space. It's not the last space, but there's a shell, a shell, and a shell. So I'm leaving 3 shells open for my neck area. We'll do a nice little collar around. That's your personal preference, whatever you'd like to do. So now do the same thing on the other sleeve, making sure that all of your seams are on the same side. And I'll meet you back. So a note about the collar. I went back and I attached it 1 more shell. So I only left 2 shells not attached. Because apparently I'm not as fat as I think. Body image for you. So I have a skinny neck, always have, so I just needed like the width of my neck and the, you know, how it slopes onto your shoulders. That's kind of the distance that you want, maybe a little bit more. So we have space for our edging. So I went back and I attached it one more set. So I just left 2 shells open, 1 and 2, and that's it. So check yours if you want to do 2. Depends how big your neck is, or your, you know, if you're broad-shouldered or not. Apparently I am not. So I've attached my sleeves on both sides. So this is still wrong side out. So you could inside it out now if you'd like, and you can try it on to make sure that you love it. And you can see our seam, or maybe can you see our seam? It looks great. Like you don't notice it. You have to look for it. It doesn't stand out. So that's what I really like about it. So go ahead, give it a try on. There's even our back seam, nice and flat. When you're happy with it, if you want to make it bigger, now's the time. Take it apart, make it bigger. You probably don't need to because you're smart like that. So now we are going to be making it longer along the bottom. Of course, you don't have to. If you do want to make it longer at the bottom, which I do because I want it to cover my bum, I will show you how to do that. Same with the sleeves. I'll also show you how to make the sleeves longer if you want to make them longer. If you want to just leave it like a short cardi like this, just skip ahead and we'll do the edging around. But first, making it longer. So we're going to be starting. It doesn't matter if you're starting on the inside or the outside, just a bottom corner. Any bottom corner is where we're going to start. So now I'm going to go into that corner chain again and join my yarn. Drop my tail, and I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2, because where I join the yarn, that slip stitch counts or looks like a stitch, a chain stitch, so I count it as that. And now you're going to make 2 more double crochets into that first space, 1 and 2. That gives us a nice straight edge there. And now you're going to do the same all the way along like you always have been, 3 double crochets into each space. And I will meet you when you get to the seam. There's a little bit of a trick. Now here we are at this corner. So there's a space here. Is that a space? No. There's a space here and a space there. So it's confusing if you should put a shell into both spaces or skip one. What are you supposed to do? So here we are at our join, where our join is. So in this first space, we're just going to do like half a shell. So we'll put 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. And in the second space, we'll put 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. And then regular shells all the way along till the end of our row. So now into the corner, we also do our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So that's finished our row. And we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn our work. And now we're going to be alternating rows of doing the row we just did, which is starting and ending with 3 double crochet cluster, to this row that we're going to do now, which is starting with either a chain 3, well, it starts with a chain 3 and ends with a double crochet. So one row we're starting and ending with shells, and the second row we're starting and ending with spaces. So you just alternate between the row we just did and the row we're doing now. So chain 3 and 3 double crochets into the first space. 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochets into each space all the way along, and I will meet you at the end. So at the end, we're going to do our last shell into the space. 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to wrap our yarn and do a double crochet into the top of this chain 3. So just poke your hook in. It's hard to see on my yarn because it's textured, but price you pay for beauty, I suppose. So just do a double crochet into that top of the chain, and that makes a space for the next row. So now chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Turn your work again, and into this first space that we just made, we do 2 more double crochets that counts as our first shell. So 1 and 2. So now we're going to do the first row we did, which is starting and ending with 3 double crochets. So as you get to your seam, you still have the 2 holes. Here's the 2 holes there's your 2 holes from your seam. So the matching ones on the second row up. Your third row of going back, you're going to do 2 double crochets in this stitch and 2 double crochets in the next. Oh, what is with my vocabulary? So in your third row coming back, you're just going to put 2 double crochets here, same as we did when we joined, 1 and 2. And in the next one, 1 and 2 into that space. So I got my sweater the length I want it to be, but I did a little alteration here I want to show you. So this here is the end, that's our join where we joined, and then we did the 2 double crochets, 1 into each of those holes, and we did it for the third row as well. Then for the 5th row I did a decrease, so I'll show you how to do that decrease, and that ended up making it really nice and flat, and so it has the same tension as the upper part. It looks really good. There's no extra stitches over your butt, which of course you don't want. So let me just show you how to do this decrease that I did on the 5th row. So these would be the 2 holes that I'd be doing 2 double crochets and 2 double crochets. So you're going to do a double crochet into the first space in the center back, regular 1 double crochet, then wrap your yarn and start the second double crochet, but leave 2 loops on your hook. Then wrap your yarn and go into the second hole on the other side of the back seam on the 5th row and start another double crochet. But instead of finishing the one, you finish both together. So you're going to take those 3 loops off of your hook and then 1 more double crochet into that same space. So that gives you something that looks like that. So it's 3 stitches. I know it's hard to see with this yarn, my apologies, but I love the yarn. So there's 1 stitch here, 1 stitch there, and 1 stitch there. So that's the same as a regular cluster. So the next time when you go around, let me just do this guy over here so I can show you. Finish off that row. So next time when you go around, you're going to be doing your 1 shell here and 1 shell there, and this is 1 shell. So that makes your back basically perfect, but I was stress crocheting in the house, and my video studio is in my guest house, so I couldn't come out here to film it when I was speeding through. So work your way back and forth, alternating rows of starting or ending with a chain or starting and ending with clusters until your cardigan is as long as you would like. Keep in mind that we're going to be making an edge around the opening here, the collar, and around the bottom for 2 rows. Well, you can make an edge as big as you'd like, but we'll just do 2 rows. So make your cardigan as long as you would like, keeping in mind it's going to be 2 rows longer with the edging. So now I'll just finish off this row. So this is the right length I want for my cardigan. It's just underneath my butt, and I'm still going to be putting 2 more rows on as edging. And finish off the row. Okay, so now I'm going to do a row of single crochet all the way around, just because I want it to look, I want my edges, I just want it to look nice. So I'm going to chain 1, and I'm just going to start going around my work. So into this first chain here, I'm going to go along the side, poke in your hook, and do a single crochet. You can do your edging any which way, but this is just how I'm doing it. And into the next stitch, single crochet, and you're just making single crochets all the way up. So technically each one of these shells, or each one of these spaces, is supposed to get, the shell is supposed to get 3. And the space, it also depends on your own tension, but you want it to lay flat and nice. So you kind of make your stitches. But I make it with this yarn because we're going to be edging anyway. I don't want to do this with a different colored yarn because I don't want, like, you can't see where my stitches are. It looks just, you know, the same. So when we're edging into it, now we'll have stitches all along this side that doesn't actually have stitches because it's the side of the work. Now we have stitches. So now I'm on this side, so that's easy. 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way along your work. Until we get to the corner. So keep going now. This part you totally can do. I'll see you at the top of this side. So I've gotten to my corner. In my corner, I'm going to go into the first chain because it's a chain 2. So I'm going to do a single crochet into the first chain and a single crochet into the second chain. Now this corner here is going to be your neck. So this is starting where your collar is going to be. So it's up to you how, like, actually pointy you want it to be. If you want it to be pointy, then you can actually put in a corner, like a, you know, a single crochet, a chain 1, a single crochet. But I kind of want mine to be rounded. I don't want it to be extra pointy. So I just did 2 single crochets into each of those, like 1 into each chain stitch. And now along the top, this little bit here, this is still stitches, so that's easy to do. Single crochet, well, the first one, the chain, is a bit tricky, but single crochet into each stitch until you get to the seam where we stitched it together. And this is our seam here. I've gone into that stitch, so I'll go into the stitch at the seam, and then I'll go into the next stitch over here. So we're making a collar. This is going to like flip down, so we're not adding any stitches and we're not taking any stitches away. We're just getting height. Well, really, we're getting tidy stitches, but for when we do add our height. So now all the way across to the next seam. So now we're at our second seam. I've gone into that stitch, but I'm going to go into this one. I just don't want like a hole around my collar. So I put a stitch there and then jump over to the next one. And now we're just finishing off the front lapel, I suppose, area. And make a single crochet and chain 1. Now I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to work back along this collar again, but now I'm going to be doing double crochet. So I'm chained 1 and I'm going to go into this very first stitch, that first stitch, and make a double crochet. So 1 double crochet and all the way across, 1 double crochet into each stitch of the previous round. Now this is super easy because you've already made stitches, even in your corners, your seam area, your shoulders. So just go back along your work, making 1 double crochet into each stitch. When we get to the corner, you want to go into that chain, the second chain you made, to make your edge. So this was my corner and I made my 2 single crochets. So go into the second single crochet and that is going to be your edge now. For this last stitch, we go into the top of that last double crochet, making a double crochet, and we're going to chain 1. Now we're going to work down this side in single crochet. So going into the side of that double crochet, just grabbing some yarn, you want to put about 2 or 3 stitches into each double crochet, depending on how your tension is for your double crochets. You just want it to have the same number of stitches on this side as it does on that side, approximately. So work your way down, and then you're into your stitches. So now it's easy again. We just go into the top of these double crochets, putting in a single crochet all along the side. So I'll meet you at the end of this row. So I've gotten to the end of my granny square, or my hexagon, I suppose. So now we're going to be starting to go back into the sides of those double crochets. So you're doing it the same way, 3 or 2 single crochets into each side of the double crochet. So fiddle your way back down to the corner, and I'll see you to turn. So here we are back at the corner. I'm going to go into my first chain 2 with a single crochet, and I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Now along this side, I'm going to go into my second chain for that corner with a single crochet, and then into each stitch going back 1 single crochet. So now we are done the fiddly bit, and off we are to the races. So when you get to the corner, do your last single crochet and chain 1, cut your yarn and pull your hook and your loop of yarn up and through and pull down to secure. So we've gone all the way around our whole cardigan with a row of single crochet with 2 rows of double crochet. Oh, my ends are everywhere. At the neckline. So now we're going to be lengthening the sleeve here. So lay it all flat again so you can see where your underarm part of the sleeve is. And we're going to attach our yarn into the space. There's our underarm, so the space down here will attach our yarn. So whatever seam we're going to have, it'll be underneath your arm. So get your yarn ready and your hook ready, and put your hook into that space. Put a loop of yarn on your hook, bring it through, slip stitch with both to join, or of course join your yarn however you're comfortable, and chain 2 more, 1 and 2. If you join your yarn in a different way, then chain 3. Wrap your yarn and 2 more double crochets into that space. And this is the same, we're just going around the sleeve like we did before. 3 double crochet in each space, and I'll meet you at the sleeve. We can do that part together. I'll meet you at the seam. We can do that part together. So here we are at our join. So what we're going to do for this one is we're going to do a little decrease. So wrap your yarn, put it into the first space, and do 1 double crochet. Wrap your yarn, go into the same space to do a double crochet, but don't finish it. So wrap your yarn and take off 2 loops, leaving the 2 loops on your hook. So you just don't finish your double crochet. Now going into the next stitch, start to make another double crochet, wrap your yarn and take off 2, and now finish both. So wrap your yarn and take off all 3 loops. So that is a decrease, and 1 more double crochet into that space to finish. So we've turned those 2 holes into 1 shell. It's a bit hard to see, but there's 3 stitches there along the top. So now just keep going around your work. If you'd like your sleeves to be wider, you can of course just put 2 shells in those stitches. Your sleeve will flare out a little bit. You're totally welcome to do that. But to me, these sleeves are wide enough, so I just want to rein it in a little bit. So 3 double crochets in each space. I'll meet you when we join. So here we are. I finished my last shell in this space, and here's my next shell where I'm going to join. So you're just going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3, just like regular. So slip stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Turn your work, and now 2 double crochets into that same space we were just working in. 1 and 2. So there's our first shell of this round, and now we just go all the way around. So you're just flipping, you're chaining, you're slip stitching, chaining 3, turning your work, and going back around your sleeve. So do that until your sleeves are as long as you'd like, minus 2 rows, because we'll also be putting an edging of 2 rows on these sleeves. So get all that done, and I'll meet you back. I am using this thin chenille for my edging, but obviously it is thin chenille, so I'm caking it up 2 balls together, and then I'm going to do this twice so I have 4 strands. So I'm at the corner of my cardigan, and I have my chenille wound with 4 strands. So I caked it up twice, so there's 4 balls in 1 cake. So that's about the same thickness as my other yarn. So into the corner stitch, I'm going to attach my yarn. So I'm going to bring my yarn through, oops, keeping it all on my hook. And because it's thick now, I'm going to drop my tail and I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to lay my tail up over the side of my work so I can work over it. And we're going to make 1 double crochet into each stitch. So my chain 3 is counting as a double crochet. And into the next stitch, I do a double crochet. And 1 double crochet into each stitch going all the way along. And because we did our single crochets, we don't have to think about anything anymore. So I'm going to drop my tail now because I want to work it in with a needle. Like I want to go back the other direction so it doesn't wiggle out later. So now keep going to the end of this row, making your 1 double crochet into each stitch. In our corner space, I've done my 1 double crochet, but we're going to make this one into a real corner because we need to get the height for the double crochets. So I'm going to do my 2nd double crochet into the same space. I'm going to chain 2, turn my work, and again into the same space, 2 more double crochet. So just like a regular solid granny square corner, if you're familiar with solid granny squares. So that is our corner. And I've woven in my tail a little bit on this side. Let me just, oh, that's fine actually. So now on going back along this side, 1 double crochet into each stitch. And because we did those single crochets, our stitches are waiting for us, and it'll all match. The side will match the bottom. so your edge will not look weird in the least if you changed yarn color. So you can see how that corner looks. The stitches along this side match the stitches along that side, so you can't really tell that these were rows instead of rounds. Here we are up at our collar corner. So because we did these 2 rows, there's no single crochet here. So I'm going to do the same as we did before, is go into those double crochets and make my stitches like so. And now there's my corner. So in the corner I'm going to make a corner. Now this is up to you if you want your collar like a square or you want it more rounded. I kind of want mine more rounded. I don't want it to be like a literal triangle falling down my neckline. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets into that corner stitch. No chaining. I'm going to do 1, 2, so that'll be my actual corner, and 3. So I'm doing it a bit different than I am at the bottom. So that'll be my corner around my neck, just so it's a bit more rounded. You could do your bottom corners like that too. It's up to you. Maybe in my next sweater I'll do my bottom one I'll do my bottom ones like that also. So now around the collar, same thing, 1 double crochet into each stitch, and I'll see you on the next corner. So this is the last stitch of my collar. So into the next stitch on that corner, I'm going to do 3 double crochets into the same space to get around that corner. 2 and 3. So that gets us back around our corner. Turn your work a little, not flip it, but spin it. And now work all the way back down this side. You can see our corner is nice and rounded. So when it folds down, it'll kind of be like that. Cute. So now into this corner where we did our chain, I'm going to put 2 more double crochets. Oh, that's a tight little spot I picked. 2 more double crochets. I should have actually put 2 double crochet. I should have put my chain and a double crochet in the same stitch when I started, but I didn't, so sucks to be me. Now I'm just going to slip stitch to the top of this chain to join. Did you see that? I'm just going to slip stitch to the top of this chain to join. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now let me check what side I'm on. I didn't even pay attention to that either. Okay, I'm on the good side. In a perfect world, I would have put my chain and a double crochet into the same space so we could have joined it in the corner and stepped up like I prefer to do, but I was not thinking, so I didn't. So do as I say, not as I do. But I'm not going to frog it and do it again because I have another project I really want to start. Isn't that terrible? So now I'm going to do 1 more row of double crochets. So into this next, the top of each stitch. And I'm not turning my work because my sweater, I'm working into the pretty side of my sweater. So the join, our seam, is on the opposite side. So our edging can be 2 rows pretty side facing out. We no longer have to turn our work. So 1 double crochet into each stitch, working all your way around. And I'll meet you at the next corner. So that's how wide our border is going to be. If you want it wider, you just keep going. You can do as many rows of edging as you like. So this is our bottom corner. am just going to go into the chain and make 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. If you're following the pattern, the written pattern, or my advice for doing as I say, not as I do, and did 3 double crochets here instead of 4 with a chain 2, then you're going to be making your 3 double crochets into the center double crochet. And now 1 double crochet into each stitch going along the next side. Oops. So I'll meet you at the end of this row. You can see how that corner looks with that, the 4 with the 2, and how our second row, our last row, is nice and solid. So it's up to you how you want to do it. For my next one, I'm going to put 3 double crochets here instead of 4 double crochets with a chain 2. Personal preference, but I think that's what I'll do next time, and for the written pattern. Okay, see you at the end of the row. Here we are getting close to the corner. So I'm going to go, you can check which your corner is. You'll identify the 3 stitches that are in the same spot. So those 3 are in the same spot. So in the top of the center one, into this guy, I'm going to make my corner. So I have 2 more double crochets to do before my corner. So 1 and 2. Now this next guy here is the center of my corner. So in that one I'm doing 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, all into the same stitch. So that gets us around our corner again. Oh, it's so pretty. I love this yarn. So now we're going around our neck. This is our neck area now. So I'll see you when you get to here. So our next corner of the collar, this is our front side, and that's our neck. So these are the 3 double crochets into the same stitch. So into the center one at the top, we're going to do 3 double crochets, so into that stitch. So I have 1 more to do, 1 double crochet. Now I'm in the corner, this one, so into that spot, into that stitch, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So that's our nice corner. Now I'll keep going down the front, and yay, we're finished down there. So I'll meet you down here when we go around the corner and join our work. Yay! So now back at our corner, if you're following the pattern, obviously you did a proper join, but I did not. So into this center chain, or into the center double crochet if you are following the written pattern. I'll link that below when it's available online. Do 3 double crochets into the same stitch. So I'm just doing it into the center chain, or if you're following the pattern, do it into the center double crochet. 3 double crochets all into the same stitch, like so, and 1 double crochet into this double crochet, and now slip stitch to join. If you're following the written pattern, you're going to join in the corner like a proper person. Okay, so slip stitch to join, bink, chain 1 to secure, and cut your yarn. Pull your hook up and your loop out and pull it down to secure. Now you have a nice corner I'm not crazy about that big hole there. So that's why I would change it for the written pattern. But it's still not bad. I mean, it's still a nice corner. And there's our top collar. So now we're on to the sleeves. So now get your sweater laid out. This is the front of my sweater up here with our collar. And this is my arm. So this is the underarm. This is the underside of my sleeve. This is our other join where we joined for these other rounds. So I'm going to join in ish the same area but not the same spot. And I'm going to put my hook into a stitch because now we're doing double crochets without like into each stitch, same as our border around the front. So put your hook into a stitch in your underarm area, loop your yarn onto your hook, bring it back. I'm going to drop my tail because my yarn is so chunky. And I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. So that's going to count as my first double crochet. And I'm going to go over my tails, so I'm just going to hold them on top of my work like that. And 1 double crochet into each stitch going all the way along. Now we have not done a row of single crochet on our sleeves because our double crochets are all facing the same way, our clusters. So our stitches will all be going into stitches. So we didn't single crochet, but of course you can if you want. So go all along your work, going over your tail a little bit. And I'm going into each stitch, nothing into the spaces. And now I'm going to drop my tail so I can work them in properly. And I'm just going to go all the way around. So keep going into this, doing 1 double crochet into each stitch, and I'll meet you for the join. So now I have 1 more double crochet to do into this stitch. And we're going to slip stitch to join. So top of the chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, getting 2 loops on your hook, though it's impossible to see with my lovely yarn. And chain 3 again. And no need to turn your work because we're working on the pretty side of our sleeve, and this is our last round of double crochets. So into this next stitch, our chain 3 counts as a double crochet, and 1 double crochet into each stitch until we meet back again for our slip stitch to join. So now we're finished our sleeve. This chain counts as that chain's double crochet, so that lines up. So into the 3rd chain, you're going to slip stitch to join, slip stitch, chain 1 to secure your work, cut your yarn, pull your hook and your loop of yarn up, and pull down to secure. Now do the same thing for your other sleeve and then weave in your ends. Yay!